This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Prism Specialties. Prism Specialties proudly provides a robust range of specialty restoration services to help those affected by a disaster and other unforeseen damages. Whether it's residential or commercial, Prism Specialties delivers effective recovery solutions to help contractors, adjusters, and the insured. Prism offers expertise in restoring electronics, art, documents, textiles. This includes kitchen appliances, computers, works on paper, sculptures, leather goods, shoes, industrial machinery, and more. What many companies don't specialize in or may consider a total loss, Prism Specialties can restore. So when life needs an expert, call Prism Specialties at 888-291-5905 or visit prismspecialties.com to learn more. Hey restorers, welcome to this fresh episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today I'm excited to have a conversation with a restorer about all things restoration, the challenges, the opportunities, the changes in the market that have happened even since COVID, TPAs, working with adjusters, finding qualified people to work for you, train, whatever it may be. We're here to talk about it. So I am joined by Brett Lawton. He is the CEO of Lawton Construction and Restoration. Brett, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to toss it over to you to kind of share a little bit about yourself and your company.
Excellent. No, thank you for having me. We're excited to be on the podcast. So like you said, my name is Brett Lawton. I'm CEO of Lawton Construction and Restoration, second generation contractor. We're based primarily out of Northern California. We also work in Northern Nevada and the East Bay. We started out primarily as a GC contractor back in the early 2000s and then got into water mitigation work when I took over from my father. Then from there got into textile restoration, full contents pack out, then eventually asbestos abatement, bio cleanup, and now we're pretty much full service in all three locations.
How does it differ, your office in California versus your offices in other states? Is it quite a bit different running one office versus the others?
It is. That's been the biggest challenge is running satellite offices, honestly. Like the Nevada office has been a challenge, especially different demographic, different laws and codes, and then being that far away from the facility has been a learning experience for me for sure.
What has it taken for you to kind of stay relevant as the industry is consolidating? A lot of companies like yours are striving to stay independent and continue to grow your footprint like you have, adding multiple branches. So what has it taken in the last few years for you to keep kind of growing and thriving as the industry consolidates?
Yeah, the whole growing and thriving, it's kind of a cliche. So we kind of scaled up too much. So in order to stay relevant, we actually scaled back a little bit because we got a little bit too big. We were running a lot of in-house teams. We're about 150 in-house employees. Very minimal subs, mainly TPA work, so smaller projects, smaller revenue, mainly 80% general construction recently, just because the water mitigation in California has kind of just been very dismal. So we scaled up a bunch in GC work and really got overextended, ended up having a couple bad years. So I kind of back to the drawing board. We scaled back our recon division. We brought in more single trade subs so we could control our margins ahead of time. To stay more relevant and also to stay alive. We had to do that because we were losing money year over year, especially with the TPA upload prices, the revisions. I mean, it's just our average size scope with the TPAs were like $12,000, and we're doing $20+ million. I mean, that's thousands of small jobs, and you have trucks on the road, so it became there's no bragging and saying how much gross revenue you do if you're not keeping any of it. So, to stay more nimble, we scaled back quite a bit. Not with regards to how many which we can service, but our in-house employee staff. So that was one of our biggest changes that has helped us get back in the game and come back stronger.
What did it take to stay resilient in that period and to have like the tenacity to restructure versus just being like, never mind?
Yeah, it was really a tough one. It was kind of a do or die moment where it's like either you just completely 180 shift and go back to a couple trucks. Like once you grow that much, the infrastructure is there, our back office staff was there, the facilities were there. So I knew, and I started looking at other markets and other contractors are making money. I just finally had to come to the realization is that I put all my eggs in a basket that used to be a lot more lucrative than it is now. And it's not that we don't have a good skill set. We are a necessity. Builders and restorers are a necessity, I think, for a very, very, very long time. And I wanted to find a way to become profitable again. And it's just, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, if to give up wasn't an option, but constantly looking at balance sheets with upside down numbers is also crushing for your staff too. So it just took one of those moments, those aha moments to go, you know what, let's just throw all the old plans away and let's just build back something that's more symbiotic with what other contractors are doing, what commercial guys are doing, try to start taking something out of their playbook and applying it to restoration and not allowing TPAs to dictate. Back in the day, the whole thing was they wanted to see your trucks out front. You got to be lettered up and branded in your truck, and they didn't want a lot of subs out there. And after a while, I'm like, well, I can't die on the knife, so I have to find a happy medium. So, and that's what we kind of did.
So, okay, how did you find a happy medium with TPA work versus independent work? Because it sounds like you were pretty heavy in the TPA world, and then
we still are. So we did what about me and my COO Gomer. We did what we called right relationship building, and we started going through all the TPAs. And I always say that we get controlled by volume. So us contractors, we all get excited. And we have constant jobs coming in.
Yep.
Well, but we don't look at as how the quality of those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So we just keep going to the next one. All of us, from the very beginning, in our mind, we're all salespeople. So we're like, oh, I got more work, and the big one's coming next. Well, sometimes the big one never comes. And like you look at some TPAs and some of the insurance carriers that are sending you work, and you can find a line in just the numbers by following an algorithm and saying, okay, we did 2 million with this carrier and our GP was 10. We did 2 million with this carrier and our GP was 15. Mm-hmm. We did 2 million with this carrier and our GP was 20. And so you start looking at these, you go, okay, I'm going to start shuffling these around. I'd rather not do any of these, because if I'm doing 10%, I'm actually losing money. And most restorers, their break even is 20%. We got to have back office people, coordinators, people answering the phones nonstop, revisions and exact analysis. It's not just the workers in the field.
Yep.
For every team, there's usually 3 people behind the scenes notating everything and updating behind the scenes. So it's just, so we're bidding for an Xactimate price, but behind that Xactimate drywall patch is a project coordinator, project manager, an assistant, all doing everything basically for free. So when we started looking at that, we started figuring, okay, we don't want to say no to TPA completely because it's also a nice revenue stream when things get slow, but we cannot keep losing money just to have our guys busy. Yes. And that's when we kind of had that moment. And then we started branching towards, commercial property management and started dabbling in it. And it didn't take long to dabble before we started to see success. Mm-hmm. So, and as you know, when you're tenacious, you see a little bit of success, your mind goes from here, now you're over here. Yes. Now you're just like, oh, I forgot. Okay. And then your mind shifts and your team's mind shifts. And then you start taking that and scaling that little by little, chipping away. And then, about a year and a half of that, and now we're pretty much 50-50 TPA and then commercial GC contractors, property management. And then online, obviously, like a Google and stuff like that as well.
So what do you consider one of the biggest challenges that there is today? It sounds like you've navigated that shift well. But what is one of the biggest challenges for your company that remains today?
Well, there's a handful. Constant turnover, dealing with adjusters and TPAs that have unrealistic expectations beyond belief. All of us restorers and all my estimators and managers, we're all kind of timid, and we've been beat up so much. Everybody's gun shy. So we're all so used to saying yes and taking hit after hit from TPA companies that they're also not as aggressive on the other side. So that we've kind of become timid with regards to what we can do. We don't want to ruffle feathers, and we're always trying to say yes to everything. Well, that makes you awful to be competitive in another market. Mm-hmm. So one of my top estimators that gets everything approved through Xactimate struggles with property management because he's dealing with a bunch of old school contractors that are, more cowboy up mentality and just give me the price, just don't give me all these change orders. And my guys are writing a very lean scope, like hope this is okay. Well, in the other world, they don't want that. They want the price now. Yeah. If it's $100,000, don't write a scope for 50, write it for 100. That's the opposite in the TPA world.
Yeah.
So our biggest struggle was trying to have the teams do both. Okay. And then we didn't have, in the beginning, we had no option but to do that. There wasn't enough volume. So, but my goal was, I saw instantly the problem of them switching gears, muscle memory, right? You want to keep your team doing the same stuff. So my goal was, okay, teams that are awesome at TPA and exact analysis and all the updates, I want to keep them there.
Yep.
And then I want to build another team that doesn't ever dabble in Xactimate, that's awesome with property managers and GCs, and that speaks their language. Because when we cross train them, it just doesn't work well. It took us about a year to get enough volume to do that. Then we started scaling up teams that just specialize in that network, and then we can build both up separately. That was a big win for us that I thought was kind of a game changer. So
is that commercial side more time and materials? How do you
Yeah,
estimate that?
exactly. Yeah, we still run Xactimate sometime, but now we even run
Yeah.
QuickBooks on it because time and materials they're okay with a 1 page sheet. And that was also a learning curve too. I kind of jumped in and like we were getting kicked back because my guys are writing a 70 page Xactimate estimate, and the other guy goes, "I have a 1 page estimate." It's like $800,000 on a QuickBooks page, and I'm like, what is this? And they're like, we prefer this. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me? Like perfect. I'm like, okay,
Right.
we can do that. We can
Right.
do that for sure. So like less is more in that world. So
Yeah.
it's like, it really is like running two different companies. The building's the same, the contracting's the same, the setup's the same, the customer service is the same. It's just all the data behind the scenes is completely different.
Are you doing a lot of your estimating in-house? Are you using remote estimators? That's a huge trend right now, people airing
Yeah,
out remote estimators. What's your
yeah, I'm still have mixed emotions over the whole thing. So, we did another funny meeting that we had with my ops manager. We were doing a bunch of remote estimating and running a lot of like Docusketch offers and estimating services. We're also running remote estimators overseas. And what I found is that I'm hiring an estimator here that has Xactimate experience. There's a certain salary cap for an Xactimate trained estimator. Whether or not they can run jobs or not, restorers want someone that can run and play the game with insurance companies, right? That usually demands a pretty high salary.
Yep.
Well, then we throw in Docusketch. Now they run the camera. Now we're seeing out the Docusketch. I notice my estimators are getting worse
Hmm.
because they become lazy. It becomes the new norm. It's another baseline. When I was in the field, I was writing scope first off on a notepad,
Yeah.
then with a laptop, and then writing it cloud based and uploading it on site. You could do a lot when you're on site as a builder. You can see a lot. When you
Hmm.
have a third party writing it, then you have an estimator reviewing it, and you're also paying, a couple percent to Docusketch for that. Then you're paying your estimator to review it. Then you're paying your upload fee to your TPA. It just keeps chipping away at it. And if I realize it's making my estimator worse at his job because he's not getting the time in the field, then I'm like, this is the wrong trend. So what I chose to do personally, and I'm not saying everybody has to do this. I chose to use it for only surge protection. So like if we get overwhelmed, or and all our estimates have what we call a KFFM, a key function flow map. So let's say estimator A has to do 2 million a year, and if we see he's already at 2.5, then
Hmm.
I'll have an ops manager me. I'll go, I'm allowing because he's overloaded and we're taking on this territory. I'll allow Docusketch on that 500,000.
Hmm.
And so I define a happy medium. Like if I am going to overwhelm them, they won't take the hit for that. I'll let them run the remote estimator so that we can keep volume. That's it. That's it. That's gonna be a corporate decision that we'll do. So we found a happy balance there, and we've also used the remote estimating a lot for training new estimators or sales guys. A lot of my sales guys and gals too, they have no experience. I'm like, in order to be a salesperson, you need to understand construction a little bit.
Hmm.
Best way to understand construction is to write a few scopes. And the
Yep.
best way to do that is go out there, run the camera, look at the estimate, and learn it backwards. Now with technology and AI, they had the beauty of doing it backwards. Back when I started, we didn't have the beauty of doing it backwards. We were just stabbing at it. So now they have the beauty of actually having a third party write it the right way with as per whatever insurance carrier's coverage limits or coverage evaluations. They can see how to write it for that carrier, use that as a template. So now here's your AAA, here's your farmers, and pretty soon they have a playbook. And I go, now you're dangerous. Now you can write scopes in like a mid loss. Now you're dangerous enough to get things approved for us. So that's been helpful as well.
So how I'm trying to decide what direction I want to take this. I have many directions. Okay, let's stay
Right.
kind of on the getting paid an estimator part and talking to
All right.
adjusters, relationships with
Yeah.
adjusters. So
Okay.
you
Let's do
kind
that.
of touched on, you guys tend to go the high road, be nice, be easy to work
Mm-hmm.
with, be all of those
Correct.
things. That doesn't always work so great anymore. So
Correct.
how have you found a happy medium? How have you managed to maybe have good relationships with adjusters and maybe
Well,
lessen some of the pushback? Any of that?
the first step is getting me off the phone. That's good. I became very grouchy and combative, so I was probably one of the worst ones because after you become scorned after a while. But my team is very charismatic and they're much nicer than me and they're willing to put up with more. But I'm teaching them how to be polite yet firm. There's a big difference of being a
Yep.
pushover and being polite and firm and knowing the
Yes.
quality of what you're doing. Because a pushover is also worse than being a jerk.
Yep.
Because therefore people realize if they're going to walk all over you, they're going to walk all over you. And if you're known as being a jerk or never making any happy medium or always have to have it your way, you become that person in the industry. I want my team to be, we'll find a happy medium, but firm enough and like we're not going to take a loss for you.
Yep.
We didn't cause this damage. Lawton didn't come out and drive to the house. We're here to fix it. We cannot do it for free.
Yep.
So that's kind of the mentality we have to have. So that's been teaching them how to do that. And also the relationship, the adjuster relationships that are coming back out, it's almost very symbiotic to the 2012, 2014 era where before TPAs were really going rampant, there's a lot more local adjusters coming back out of the woodwork that were in higher management that are now back in large loss, seeing more of those trends. So a lot of the names we used to work with that my top estimators know, we're back out there with them again. And that's been pretty awesome to see. So, and when that happens, that becomes very symbiotic where you have that field relationship again with trusted adjusters that value you. And that's how it used to be. And then it went after COVID, so far other direction where it was just there was no emotion to it whatsoever. All the adjusters were gone. No one remembered who you were. They don't care if you were out there at midnight on fire for them. And now you're just algorithm. And some adjuster in the Midwest who had never met you before is grading your estimates. And it became very difficult and kind of a thankless industry. But luckily, we are seeing some changes now where the local adjusters are back out. My large loss team is much happier, and we're kind of going that route more and more. Even if we're not even on the TPA program, those large loss adjusters are still calling us. So
that's good.
We found we didn't think that was an option, and then we found that it is an option. So
it's funny how many things people say aren't an option that really are an option once the relationship is right. Yeah.
Yep.
So going back to talking about your California office for a minute, what are you seeing as far as coverages are going there? Are people still, do they have policy coverages? Are you finding more and more people without insurance at all?
It's absolutely insane out here right now. But besides everybody pulling out of California, you had State Farm, the biggest pull out of California ever. Farmers had a huge pullback as well. They're not even writing policies up here in Northern California where we're at. You have California Fair Plan, which is the only insurance you can get for fire coverage. They have no TPA guidelines whatsoever. They have no preferred vendor list, and their coverage is awful. Homeowners are just gun shy because if they haven't had to do California Fair Plan, they don't want to have a claim. Like even on my rentals, I won't file a claim if I haven't been pushed to California Fair Plan. If I still have a normal carrier for a decent price, I don't want to file a claim unless the house blows up. Because as soon as I do, they're gonna kick me off, and I'm gonna have a 3x policy. California Fair Plan is literally 3 to 4x what a normal policy is. So if your normal policy was $3,000, you're paying $9,000 to $12,000 for California Fair Plan up here, plus a rider policy for your normal water, tree, act of God policy on top of that. So you could be easily paying $14,000 in insurance a year for a normal size home up here in the foothills, which makes it even more difficult for homeowners to justify having the coverage and doing any upgrades whatsoever. I mean, the cost of living goes up, and then factor in property taxes going through the roof, and you have a real issue out here.
What do you do when you run into homeowners that are in that bind of should I
file a claim? Yeah. What we do, we get quite a few of those from our cold calls and our online marketing. While people call, and what my team will usually go over a threshold, like what's your comfort zone? Like if Miss Smith's comfort zone, if you're on a fixed income, you got to do what you got to do. If you can't afford to pay out of pocket, that's what insurance is for. But if you can afford to pay out of pocket, we always say if it's under $5,000, you really should consider it because your California Fair Plan is going to be literally double that in 1 year. So we always try to coach them a little bit, but in general, we also go, we don't have a crystal ball. They might not deny you. They might not cancel you, which is cautionary tale. We try to be as open as possible with our clients within reason.
Okay, one of my favorite things to ask restorers is a favorite story or interesting story. It doesn't have to be a favorite, but maybe an interesting job story or something interesting client, whatever that may be. So I'd love to hear a story or two that you have from your journey so far.
Trying to think. Well, honestly, the good and the bad part of me being so detached is I've been out of the field now for about 5 years. So all my stories are stories of signing up bigger accounts or meeting with executives or VPs. But I do have some cool stories from my team. So I got my oldest sister Lisa is one of our marketing managers, and she had a story where we did a fire loss out here in Lincoln, and she's at the local Starbucks. We did 2 back-to-back buildings, and then all of a sudden a police chief from Yuba City, which is about 40 minutes down the road, recognizes her, asks her if we can have coffee together, and then goes over the whole story that they heard about Lawton on these fire losses in Lincoln, and then asks us if we'd be willing to go on their port program in Yuba City. And I thought it was a really cool story to see us getting traction with the marketing division, where even though she's a marketer, she's getting traction with, fire chiefs and
Yeah,
people that show that she's really, gaining trust in the community. I just heard that story last week, and I thought that was a pretty cool
that's a
little
great
thing to
story.
see. It made a
Yeah.
lot of time because also we're not a fire chaser, so to have fire chief coming up, and it's very different when we're invited. I always say I want to be invited. I don't want to be the ones. I mean, I'm not knocking it, just not my personal style. So when you're invited by the fire department, it opens up a whole different door than showing up unannounced. That was very cool to see for her journey, and also as our company in general getting outside of the TPA to kind of
Mhm.
see my team growing.
Perfect. That's a great
Yeah,
story. I love that. Relationships are kind of everything. So, okay, one
100%.
last question that I want to ask you is related to talent. So that was a great story that you just shared, and I'm curious how you're finding your talent in your different markets and how you've seen it's hard to find people in general, but have you
Absolutely.
found any tricks? Have you found any ways to find or vet good people, any avenues, anything like that?
Trying to build better protection avenues here and there. You're always going to find bad seeds. The problem with I always say it's the same guy or gal, different shirt. And the problem
Mhm.
is as for stores, when we get busy, we become desperate.
We do.
And you have people that are skipping around a lot. It's always a cautionary tale. You always think, oh, they're skipping around until they find us, and we're so great, they're going to love us here. It's like,
Mm.
come on, we're not. All of us for stores are pretty similar, except for a few different things. Yeah, there might be some managerial difference, but in general, we're pretty similar with regards to workload, capacity, where you got to go, what you got to do. So when I hear my HR team talking to somebody and they're like, "Oh, they was traveling too much. I had too much behind the wheel time." I'm like, we're a 24-hour emergency
Mhm.
restoration company that goes to houses every single day. Wheel time is part of the job, so
Yep.
that's a red flag to me.
Yep.
Or they're demanding too much of me. Then I'll go, okay, well, what was the demand? How much volume were you doing? And then we break that down. If I see red flags there, because we have our labor efficiency rates built in. One thing I didn't mention earlier is my CFO has done a great job with my ops manager breaking everything down to where literally it can be on a spreadsheet. So
Mhm.
labor efficiency rate for the estimator at a 15x, whatever it might be. You pump in their salary. I don't care if they want 80,000 or 500,000. I can tell them exactly how much work they have to do, and I show them the number. I'm like, can you do this? This is your number. That's your GP. That's your net profit. That's your gross. This is how many jobs you got to do. And if you want that money, it's right here. And it makes it really easy in the negotiation process, but we don't have to go, oh, I don't know if we can afford that. Well, we can afford it all day if you can do $8 million.
Mhm.
That's it. So that's been a huge one for us too. People come with these giant salary requests, and I'll have my ops manager get involved, and I go, here, well, here's what you requested. We've taken into consideration. This is what kind of volume you have to do. And then they're like, oh, they can't really sandbag around us because we have those numbers. And I'm not scared of top talent retaining at a high price if you can do it.
Yeah.
It's just most people are used to jumping from job to job. Their 150 salary turns into 180 for the next company because they want somebody who's already pre-trained.
Uh-huh.
And they keep compounding that to a point where they become unhireable, and then they have to have a reality check. So for us, being very transparent with the numbers has been huge, and also for keeping talent. Whenever people get a better offer, I'll go over their offers, and I'll pull up our KFM, I'll pull up their bonus scale. People get confused versus net bonus scale versus gross revenue bonus scale. Gross revenue bonus scale looks way sexier than the net bonus scale, but net is your guaranteed money. So like I,
Mhm.
I go over all that. We explain all that in the hiring process to kind of get it all out of the way, that we're not having this crazy negotiation process too. Because also, I don't want my HR team negotiating for 3 weeks and then passing on somebody.
Yeah.
Because you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on bad hires and not hiring people. The more you can template and copy and paste where it's already pre-done on a template where you don't have to do it organically, the better. And that screening process has helped us a ton. And we've actually had some really retained some top talent here that's even had multiple other job um, try to get poached from us, and they're very transparent, and we'll look it over, and we come back with them. We go like, actually, our offer is still better, and here's why. And if you do this, well, it's even going to be better. And they go, oh, thank you very much for actually looking at it. And we've been able to retain a lot of talent that way. So
How transparent are you with your team just kind of in general as the company grows, as you're, going into
so
different
we
avenues?
we run everything through Windows and Excel. They can open up their screen, look at their dashboard. They can see the gross revenue of the company, the gross profit of the company. Every team can see each other's teams. You can click on any estimator, pulls up how many jobs. And then we run it in our war room meetings. We go over every team. We're not putting them on blast, but everybody can see everybody's numbers. We don't hide anything. And back in the day, I used to think that I shouldn't show my numbers, and that was kind of one of my demises back in the day, was being too close-lipped, even when we weren't doing well.
Mhm.
So don't want to scare everybody off. And I'm like, the transparency is key, man. Like I want everybody to know, because employees, when they roll up here, they see a nice car, they see all the trucks, they think everything's great. They have no idea whether or not you're leveraging on a mortgage to make payroll.
Yeah.
They have no clue. They think you're just freaking rolling in it. Well, when I have a full system showing everything's updated, it links with QuickBooks, they see that we're not fudging the numbers. Every screen matches, all the numbers match from Dash to their other screen, and they see it, and they become very trusting.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever they look for things, I'm like, I'll get a call. I'll open up screen 3. That's your sales ratio number. Open up screen 4. That's your close ratio. Like it's auto populating. It took us about 2 years to build that. They became huge. It's kind of like a kid asking what's in the fridge. And you say, just open the fridge. You know what I mean? So It's like that same mentality. After a while, they stop asking, and they become empowered to check themselves.
That's awesome. I love that. Numbers are everything, and I know that that's a hard thing to grasp. So
It really is. I mean, for me, especially from grassroots, it was always left hand, right hand, how many trucks are driving out. I never was a numbers guy. I was an ops guy. I grew up building with my dad, framing. I didn't understand the corporate side whatsoever, and I've had to learn a lot. But by now learning that portion, I'll be able to take my construction background and also show construction guys how the same way I had to learn. I'm just showing them bootleg, basic stuff that anybody could do with, even if you didn't graduate high school, you can understand this, and they appreciate that. I go, these are easy numbers to understand. These are simple numbers to understand. It's not overly complicated, and you can look at them whenever you want.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Brett, thank you so much for all the wisdom. That was a lot of topics covered in a short window.
I know. Sorry if I was rambling.
You were not. We talked about a lot, which is great. You did not ramble at all. Anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
One thing I don't know how many younger people tune into this, but I'm really trying to make a push now for the younger generation to start doing more trade school stuff. I've been seeing a huge, my son's 8. I have a 23-year-old daughter, and I see that it's a trend. There's this trend of like everybody not wanting to work in doing any kind of construction to now kids want to do construction again. Even single trades, you become a commodity. When I tell everybody, when you're young, you have nothing but energy on your side and time. Don't squander all that by goofing off and trying to decide what you're going to do. Get out there and work.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I worked from a young age, and I compounded from very, very young age, and I was good at construction. You make great money in construction. If you start young, you are way ahead of the game than waiting till you're 26 and deciding to get into the trades. Yep. So I always say you got to pay for your schooling at a young age, because you have nothing but time and energy on your hands. As you get older, you get tired and cantankerous. It's really hard to make a career change into construction if you want to be a desk jockey when you're later in life. So that's my little bit of wisdom to the youth out there.
That is great advice. I totally agree. So, well, Brett, thank you so much for the great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on, and good luck with all the things that you're navigating in your team, and congrats on your continued growth.
Thank you. You as well.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, and find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.